The shift for O'Neal came just 1 week ago while sitting courtside to watch the Clark and the Fever. Nonetheless, we know he's cool with Angel Reese. Oh my goodness, Angel Reese had a great game. Quote, "She's the real deal," O'Neal said of Clark. Much respect to her and her family and the way she grew up and the way she plays.
You won't believe what Shaq just said about Caitlin Clark. He thinks she's not that good and that a 42-year-old Diana Taurasi is better. Let's talk about why this take is blowing up the basketball world. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much.
Why would somebody knowingly try to hate a 22-year-old basketball player? That he felt like he had to hate on her because he was cool with Angel Reese?
Now, back to the video. Just when Clark thought she was unstoppable, a mountain of a man stood in her way. Shaq's words hit harder than any defensive play, leaving fans wondering, is this a case of old school versus new school, or is there more to the story? You won't believe what Shaq just said about Caitlin Clark. The big man dropped a bombshell that's got everyone talking. Shaq straight up told Clark, "You ain't that great yet. Calm down." Can you imagine one of the biggest names in basketball history telling the hottest player in women's college hoops to pump the brakes? But Shaq didn't stop there. He went on to praise Diana Taurasi, saying she still got it at 42. And let me tell you, the numbers don't lie. Taurasi's been putting up insane stats lately. We're talking 26 points, 7 rebounds, and 11 assists on average over her last 10 games. Oh, and did I mention she's shooting 45, 40, 90? That's elite level stuff right there. So what's Shaq's deal? He's all about earning your stripes in this game. He's saying Clark's got talent, sure, but she needs to prove herself against the big dogs like Taurasi and A'ja Wilson before she can claim greatness. Now, you'd think fans would be nodding along with Shaq, right? Wrong. The reaction was wild. People were losing their minds, calling Shaq out for being too harsh on Clark. Basketball experts were scratching their heads, wondering if Shaq had even been watching Clark play. It's like Shaq forgot about all those jaw-dropping performances Clark's been putting on. Remember when she was dropping 30-point games like it was nothing? How about those nasty crossovers and money three-pointers? It's like Shaq's living in a different world. But here's where it gets really interesting.
Nonetheless, we know he's cool with Angel Reese. Oh my goodness, Angel Reese had a great game. Quote, "She's the real deal," O'Neal said of Clark. Much respect to her and her family and the way she grew up and the way she plays.
Turns out Shaq's got a history with Clark. He once said he tried not to like her. What's that about? Is there some beef we don't know about? Or is Shaq just being Shaq, stirring up drama for the sake of it? This whole situation's got people talking about more than just Clark and Shaq. It's sparking debates about respect in women's basketball, how we compare players across generations, and what it really means to be great in this game. You've got to wonder how Clark's feeling right now. She's been on top of the world, changing the game, and now one of the biggest names in basketball history is telling her to slow her roll. That's gotta sting, right? Forget Shaq versus Clark for a second. There's a silent war raging in women's basketball, and it's about to get loud. Who's really calling the shots in this league, and why does it matter so much right now? This whole Shaq-Clark drama, it's just the surface of something way bigger. We're talking about a battle for respect that's been brewing in women's basketball for years.
Caitlin Clark has been playing lights out for the last 9 games, at least. The shift for O'Neal came just 1 week ago while sitting courtside to watch the Clark and the Fever.
And let me tell you, it's not just about who can sink the most three-pointers or grab the most rebounds. You know what's crazy? While Shaq's out here telling Clark to pump the brakes, there's a whole bunch of players fighting for recognition every single day. It's like they're playing 2 games at once, one on the court and one off it. And trust me, the off-court game, it's just as brutal. Let's talk about equal pay for a second. You've got these amazing athletes putting up insane numbers, breaking records left and right, and they're still not getting paid what they deserve. It's like, come on, when are we gonna start valuing these players for real? And it's not just about the money, it's about respect. It's about acknowledging that these women are some of the best athletes in the world, period. But for some reason, people like Shaq still think it's okay to downplay their achievements.
You're cool with Angel Reese, so you're not supposed to recognize how good Caitlin Clark is? Girls try to beat her up, and she really doesn't complain. She's a great one even early on in her career.
You want to know what's even crazier? This conversation isn't just about Clark. You've got players like A'ja Wilson out there absolutely dominating the game. She's putting up numbers that would make any NBA player jealous. But is she getting the same level of recognition? Not even close. It's like there's this unwritten rule that women's basketball is somehow less than men's basketball, but anyone who's watched a WNBA game knows that's straight up nonsense.
And here's why. I mentioned she has more points accounted for than any other player in WNBA history as a rookie, over 37 points.
I think she should win WNBA MVP.
What I'm saying is it would not surprise me and it would not upset me if she won.
These women are out here changing the game, pushing it to new heights every single season. And you know what? It's not just about the veterans either. The league is evolving and we're seeing new talent come in and shake things up. Players like Clark are forcing us to rethink what's possible in this sport. They're not just playing the game, they're redefining it. But here's the thing. With all this talent, all this skill, why are we still having debates about whether these players are good enough? It's like, hello? Have you been watching the same games I have?
All right, I think she's jealous and I think she's petty about Caitlin Clark. O'Neal reportedly indicated that he felt like he had to be on Team Reese.
This whole situation with Shaq and Clark, it's just bringing all of this to the surface. It's making us ask some real questions about how we value women's basketball, how we compare players across generations, and what it really means to be great in this sport. And let me tell you, it's not just fans who are talking about this. Players are speaking up too. They're tired of being undervalued, tired of having their skills questioned, tired of being told they're not as good as their male counterparts.
Clark has led all rookies in points and assists per game, along with 3-pointers made. Of course, it's been far from a perfect start.
It's also been productive. Today, Clark was named the WNBA's Rookie of the Month for May.
In her first month in the WNBA, Iowa native Caitlin Clark has been named the league's Rookie of the Month.
It's like we're at a tipping point. Something's got to give. Either we start giving these players the respect they deserve, or we risk losing some of the best talent this sport has ever seen. So yeah, Shaq might think he's just calling out one player, but what he's really doing is shining a spotlight on a much bigger issue. He's making us confront some uncomfortable truths about how we treat women's basketball.
I never spoke about her before because Angel is my girl, but I can truthfully say Caitlin Clark is for real. Shaquille O'Neal eventually came around on Caitlin Clark. Congratulations, dude. I mean, you're a grown man.
So Shaq threw down the gauntlet, but Clark's not just picking it up. She's about to use it to rewrite the whole playbook. How's she gonna do it? That's where things get really interesting. You'd think Clark would be shaken after Shaq's comments, right? Wrong. This girl's got ice in her veins and fire in her heart. She's not backing down, she's doubling down. Clark's hitting the court harder than ever, letting her game do all the talking. Imagine this. Clark's out there dropping buckets like it's nothing, making passes that'll make your head spin, and grabbing rebounds like her life depends on it. It's like she's got something to prove, and boy, is she proving it. But here's the thing, Clark's not just playing for herself anymore. She's got a whole army behind her. Fans are showing up in droves, waving signs, chanting her name. It's like the whole basketball world is saying, "We see you, Caitlin. We believe in you." And it's not just the fans. Other players are stepping up too. They're all over social media, dropping comments, sharing highlights. It's like they're saying, "Hey Shaq, you messed with one of us. You messed with all of us." You know what's crazy? This whole drama might be the best thing that ever happened to women's basketball. People who never paid attention before are suddenly tuning in. They want to see what all the fuss is about. And when they watch Clark play, they're hooked.
She's the only rookie in WNBA history with a triple-double and now has 2 in her debut campaign.
That's almost 45 points per game and the most by any player ever. She's on pace to generate the most points in a season in WNBA history.
Let's talk about Clark's future for a second. This girl's not just playing basketball, she's changing the game. Every time she steps on the court, she's redefining what's possible. She's pushing boundaries, breaking records, and making people rethink everything they thought they knew about women's basketball. And you know what? That's exactly what this sport needs. It needs someone to shake things up, to make people sit up and take notice. Clark's not just a player, she's a revolution in sneakers. But here's the real question. What does this mean for women's basketball as a whole? Are we looking at a turning point? Is this the moment when everything changes?
They've won 7 of their 8 since they clinched a playoff berth for the first time since 2016. She continues to make history. She's the first rookie to win WNBA Player of the Month.
Think about it. Clark's not just proving Shaq wrong. She's proving that women's basketball deserves just as much respect, just as much attention as the men's game. She's showing that these athletes are just as skilled, just as dedicated, just as worthy of our admiration. And let me tell you, that's powerful stuff. It's like Clark's carrying the whole future of women's basketball on her shoulders. But instead of crumbling under the pressure, she's thriving. She's turning all that doubt, all that criticism into fuel.